Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the meeting to order. If you would, if you would join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our regular council meeting for June 11th, 2018. With that said, we have the first thing would be the public hearing for our property tax millage rate proposed levied to support the 2018-19 budget. Anyone wishing to speak on that? Now is your time. This is not the normal public comment. This is just regarding the tax millage rate. No one? The approval of the minutes, the regular meeting, May 14th, 2018. Oh, I'm sorry. No, we'll close the meeting. Thank you.
You on the minutes now?
Yes, regular, the approval.
So the second page, new business, line item 4, lawn mowing bids, says no bids were received. We actually did receive one bid, but it was retracted. I think that's important to label on there because no bids that were received for review means that we had the availability to post it again in the newspaper. And there was lengthy discussion that since we already seen the first bid, therefore we cannot repost it. So therefore a bid was received and reviewed, even though it was withdrawn.
Council agree?
What was it, Jake, what was it?
Number 4
on page 2.
New business.
Okay, no bids were received, okay, one
We had one.
bid was,
One bid was received and withdrawn.
okay, and that's all of this, okay, got it.
Council, you're good with that? Nothing else? Then I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to approve the Village Goodrich regular council meetings, May 14, 2018, as amended.
Support.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
McCafferty,
Yeah.
Lang,
Yes.
Baraco,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Calhoun.
Yes. The next one is the special council meeting, our budget work session. That was,
Point of order.
Gonna say that.
Oh. I'm sorry. Point of order. Let's back up. My mistake. The approval of the agenda should have been done before the public hearing that we closed. Council, approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda dated June 11th, 2018.
Support.
Roll call.
McCafferty,
Yeah.
Lang,
Yes.
Baraco.
Yes.
Dick,
Yeah.
Calhoun.
Yes. Now to get back in order, the public hearing, we opened and closed. No one wishes to speak. Regular meeting, May 14th, we've already approved the minutes for that. Now the special meeting, May 15th.
Mr. President, I got a lot of concerns on this minutes that are on here. There's a lot of non-factual stuff that was stated. I'll start at the beginning. Distributed communications from Attorney McKinney regarding the procedures for discussion of timesheets and performance reviews as it relates to the Open Meetings Act and the Boulder Collective right to know Act. That part is correct. Vic questioned the need for the letter. At the 36-hour mark and 11 minutes, Roscoe asked who contacted the lawyer and how much expense was that. Mark then went into discussion about the research online and the information sharing. And then Jackie then stated that it was the direction of Mr. Baldwin referring to the conversation after she stated that I stated that I contacted the attorney. It was Mr. Baraco that questioned, I don't know if he actually questioned the intent of the letter, but who approved the decision to go to the attorney. Number two, Sitch stated she received direction from President Baldwin to request a letter. I guess that interpretation can be correct because she did later on state, as I just said, that Mr. Baldwin gave the direction to, but at that time, during that conversation that was being said, Mark, you were talking about the information sharing going back and forth, so I don't know if that was an attempt, whatever meant we're snipping it, but we're going to get this, if we're going to put one council member's name in here 4 times, let's be correct on it. Number 3, Sitch further stated the council has created a hostile work environment. Jackie did state at the 38-hour and 53-minute mark, if you remember back, some things were said in a paper that were stated at a council meeting. Nothing more detailed than a council member said it or than an audience member said it, meeting about the DPW. We have had enough and you are creating a hostile work environment. We have had enough. So that tells me that that goes in line that she was the one that had referred to the attorney about this letter. I did state in here that anytime we start asking questions, letters do get brought to us by the attorney. That is, I don't know if that's where she's saying the bit question the need for the letter. Did question the need for the letter. I did go into discussion on my interpretations of what the Boulder-Palicki Act was. So I'll move on down to number 4. McKinney also suggested they hire a labor attorney in his correspondence. Mr. McKinney was not at this meeting. Mr. McKinney did not give us any documentation on that. So I don't know how he was at the May 15th meeting. Number 5, council began to discuss regarding complaints received about the administrator. That is true. That was kind of the open dialogue around the performance reviews. Number 6, Bracco stated he has received at least 30 and complaints received about the administrator. And Vic and Light stated they have also received complaints. So that didn't come up until 49-minute mark and 45 seconds. Bracco stated he had received multiple phone calls and complaints around professionalism. Never once did he state he received at least 30 phone calls or received 30 messages or the number 30 whatsoever. And then it says Vic and Light stated also they have received complaints. Mr. Light, this is no disrespect, Mr. Light, but was quiet during that meeting. The only thing that he said in that meeting, at the 71-minute mark, 30 seconds, Mr. Light said, "I see both sides and have mixed feelings." That was a quote. So that is wrong. Then it says Vic stated they should not renew Sitch's contract. It was.
So good time.
At the 63-minute mark, this wrong over. Mr. Bracco first stated, Bracco suggested that an attorney should be present, and before that said that we should not be renewing the contract, and that so an attorney should be present at the time. That was not my suggestion. That was Mr. Bracco's. I did agree with him right after that he made that comment. There was further discussion in here as well. Shannon discussed that label put on Jackie about being unprofessional because she is the bearing of bad news. Should we have an attorney be present to review this? Absolutely. That is the second council member that stated that, before I said anything about the attorney. When it came down to number 9, on my list that I had here, at the 68-minute mark, 47 seconds, I stated, I think we should have an attorney here to make sure it is done correctly. Bracco agreed. That's a third council member that stated that. Again, if we're going to wordsmith, we can't make it look like there's one person spearheading this whole thing. We haven't seen this kind of detail in a report against, I'll say, one individual. These minutes are wrong. These minutes are not correct or accurate. No consensus at the end. At the very end, Baldwin stated we should go forward with everything that it is, if that is an agreement. Mark then called on Light. That's when Mr. Light said, I see both sides and have a mixed feeling. Mr. Baldwin then said, let's move forward. So it was my understanding there was a consensus at what we wanted on the agenda and what we wanted present. There was no discussion about a labor attorney until two meetings later that we're not even going to approve those minutes because they hadn't come to us yet. That's where the labor attorney got discussed at. So I don't know where you go or how you fix these minutes whatsoever. But another example.
I have a letter here from Mr. McKinney, I think that's the one that you're in question about. And I believe that everyone got a copy of this letter, did they not? And if an employee performance review is in the substance of council's decision, the requirements of the Open Meetings Act and the notice requirements under the Willard Factor Right to Know Act must be followed irrespective to the agenda topic under which such matters are disclosed. I strongly remember that council seek and obtain advice from its labor attorney sooner rather than later. Once again, this is from our attorney telling us the direction to go. To have a labor attorney here before Mrs. Sidge's position is terminated is kind of a waste of time, money, and effort. I think the first thing to do is that we go forward if that's what the council's desire is, and then you go forward and you get your labor attorney. But this letter was, I've got it, it's dated here May 10th, 2018, and our meeting is May 15th. And I do believe everyone got that letter.
And you are correct, we did get that, but it says Mr. McKinney also suggested they hire a labor attorney. With inside the letter, and that letter was not discussed. The only thing that was discussed was a boilerplate act, right to know, and the Open Meetings Act, and what we can discuss when it comes to time sheets and performance review. Just saying, on the tape, and there was no correspondence to labor attorney, and no correspondence.
It's kind of difficult for council to do anything because, you know, we didn't make copies of that tape, as in like you did.
That was a very early discovery about when you said on there. So the issue with this is the only way to really resolve this is either you go and watch the whole thing and address it, or you go to the standard practice that we have, which is very vague, like the rates, start at the stop where it says the rate study, wages and benefits, consensus not to increase the sewer rate at this time, consensus to change it to distribution of wages and benefits from the sewer fund to the general fund for office personnel. That was discussed. Under a performance review, it's going to have to be very vague, or you're going to have to go into detail on what everybody said and get it in the right proper order. You can have on here, there was discussions about the administrator's contract and for performance reviews, also with a letter from the attorney. I mean, because that's what the whole meeting was for. But I mean, I'm just trying to point out, if you're going to go into detail and wordsmith this, you got to wordsmith it properly, put it in the right order, and who said what.
Council, do you want to table this until next month and go over it?
You can make a motion to strike the
Performance reviews?
said the explanation under performance reviews, other than to explain why it's there, because I wasn't here and I'm looking at budget work session. I would assume that performance reviews were something to do with something that was going to cost the council money, you know, in relationship to the budget. I'm not seeing that here. I'm missing something.
That was the attempt to review the employee
Okay,
reviews.
so what you would rather it read was, you know, give me, again, I wasn't here. I'll repeat what you said. In relationship to, there was a letter from the attorney.
Yep, said distribution communication from Attorney McKinney regarding procedure for discussion of time sheets and performance reviews. That's all correct.
Okay, so in hiring attorney wasn't discussed.
No.
Okay, because I can see where that would hit the budget.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so
But I
then
mean, you can make a motion and.
you want to strike the part where it says, fit question and need for
Pretty much
this
all that
letter?
down has to be stricken. Then you could put in there was discussions around not renewing administrator's contract and additional conversations on employees reviews. That's what the conversation was. I mean, if council agrees, I'm just summing up what the meeting was.
These are my minutes that I checked, the notes that I checked, and I have a discrepancy with some of the things that he said. So, my minutes.
Yeah, I know. And you're entitled as writing the minutes kind of the way you interpret them. But I'm just trying to make heads or tails as the question for need of the letter that we have here. And that letter basically states that Mr. McKinney says that we need a labor attorney, which we do, if it goes in that direction.
And that was discussed at 2 meetings later. I'm not disagreeing with any of that. Now, issues are, Vic questioned the needs for the letter. I did not state that. Mr. Baracco opened that communication. Such stated she received the direction from President Baldwin to request the letter and the video and everything that they took down from here. She stated that she requested the attorney, she contacted the attorney, and then later during the discussion, again, after it was discussed on timesheets and performance reviews, then she said this was Mr. Baldwin's direction. So again, if you want to leave that part in there, if she was referring to the direction of contacting the attorney, or if it was the direction of Mr. Baldwin to not give out the performance reviews, I don't know, because we were kind of all over the place, but I can see how that was in there. Further stated that the council has created a hostile work environment. She did state that. I guess I got questions for later then on who and how. And then the council began discussions regarding complaints received about the administrator. That was the open discussion, because that was around what you're not seeing a whole lot in here, is that not renewing the contract. Other than the fact it says the Vic stated that should not renew Sidge's contract, and Mr. Bracco was the first one to brought it up. I agree with him on that, so that suggestion part there is wrong. Council continued to review her performance. There was no really review of performance. It was job duties that was brought up on the tape. We've discussed job duties in the past for about 3 years now, before I think we finally got something set in stone.
Well, yeah, we just discussed that she did get a performance review and she did not.
Right. And that was in the contract for what we're
So
reviewing.
she's supposed to.
Right, and then Vic suggested that an attorney attend the June meeting to receive the counsel. Mr. Bracco, again, that was his suggestion. I agree with it. Mrs. McCafferty suggested that an attorney should be present as well. So I'm just saying, if we're going to go into the details on this, it's got to be correct. I got no problem with my name on here, but put it where it's supposed to go, along with everybody else's.
Council, how much would you want to strike, or do you want to table it to where you get the opportunity to go back and look at it, you know?
Well, there's a lot of misinterpretations, I'm just calling, because I never said 30. I don't think Tim Light, did you ever say what that says in there?
Yes, he did.
We watched the video,
I
right?
don't recall.
I don't recall either.
If you
The
read-
video is private citizens video. Sure.
I'll find it over to you.
Excuse me.
They're the
Once again,
correspondents.
council, what do you want to do?
I think we're gonna have to strike things off of here and make the corrections as needed. And
We can table it until the next meeting.
Don't you have to correct it first?
table approving minutes.
Or you can write down what you want so that I can get it on totally confused.
I don't recall what all was said.
Okay.
Mr. Vic, Open Meetings Act, the right to know, you want to strike the next one? Vic questioned the need for a letter.
You can just change it, put Bracco questioned the need for the letter, because he was the one that initiated. Should state this received direction from President Baldwin to request a letter. Questions around that. Do you want to leave that in? Your guys' choice.
So you definitely got direction from me to request the letter.
Fair enough.
Talk to him, yes.
And then Sidge further stated the council's created a hostile work environment. That was stated. Want to leave that in there? That's fine. McKinney also suggested that they hire a labor attorney and his correspondent.
That is in there.
Yeah, it's in there.
It's in the correspondence.
And then the council began discussions regarding complaints received about the administrator. And that was the general discussion. Bracco stated he received at least 30. It was not 30, it just said multiple. So I'd like you to scratch it, at least 30, and put received multiple communications. You can leave and Vic on there if you like. If I did go into details on
I
your
just don't remember,
description
I don't remember Tim Light saying anything
and
about
performance. Mr. Light does
We
need,
can leave my name in there. I have received complaints. I don't recall
I don't
whether I
remember.
stated
Yeah, I
anything
don't
in the
remember.
meeting, but I'm all right with that.
and then again, Vic stated they should not renew Sidge's contract.
Bracco stated,
Yeah, I did say that Bracco initiated the conversation, and I agree with it.
and Bracco suggested that the attorney,
See, now there's three council members
it. Yeah,
that suggested that.
So,
Bracco,
you can put me first.
So you
oh,
can
it
put,
starts with a B,
That's what I'm
sorry.
saying. Okay.
Bracco, McCafferty, Vic,
Yep.
is it, okay.
Go ahead, best looking, best looking.
I
Shannon?
don't have, photographic memory of things that, but I recall a conversation, whether or not that's exactly what I said, but no, I am not a labor law expert. So I would imagine that, yes, I probably did say that we should have an attorney present.
That's pretty much how you started the conversation.
Was
Those
it?
exact words,
Yeah,
yes.
all right,
Yeah.
all right.
And there was no.
At least I'm
Good
consistent.
recap.
No consensus?
Well, again, that's my question for council, because Mr. Baldwin said, are we going to move forward with what we have, and the council agreed. So, and with the discussion around that was to have on the agenda administrator's contract and to have an attorney present. We'll see the attorney here, but 2 meetings later, we had a discussion about a labor attorney, we don't know what to place forward. So it's up to council if there was consensus on what we agreed on. It's my understanding that there was.
I think there was an agreement that if we had the agenda, that we goes along with the attorney.
Right.
May I ask what attorney we were supposed to have? Is it not the council's responsibility to determine what labor attorney we're going to hire? We don't have a labor attorney. Mr. McKinney said that we needed to acquire a labor attorney.
Yep, you are correct, and depending on what circumstances took out, that's why we had that second meeting, that we would go forward on that decision at this meeting. Yeah. So just the
So
question
at
is
that
at
time,
hand.
it would be no consensus. No motion was made.
No motion.
There was no,
No, there was just,
struggle, nothing.
that's my question, there was just agreements on what would be on the next agenda.
Pleasure of the board. And are you making that a motion for me, or?
I believe they are.
Okay, that was 5.
No, you
I'm
can't.
just scribbling up these minutes, trying to figure.
Are you good so far?
No, I'm gonna put a motion here in the new minutes.
And then the last one
Change
is
the wording as he just, and has anybody made that motion?
Well, we were getting the wording correct.
Right.
I had to read all that.
And then the compensation majority consensus for cost of living increase of 2%.
Right.
And we're all,
You already talked about
we're all okay with that?
Yeah.
We made the corrections that we want?
I think it was just the performance review portion, wasn't
Yep,
it?
That's
yep.
correct.
Okay. And I think I've got it down here.
So I make a motion to approve Tuesday, May 15th minutes with the corrections noted on performance reviews.
Support.
Anything else? Roll call, please.
McCafferty?
Yeah.
Blake?
Yes.
Baraco?
Yes.
Vic? Baldwin?
Yes. Last one, I believe, is the special meeting of May 21st, 2018.
Motion to approve special council meeting May 21st, 2018.
Support.
Anything else?
McCafferty?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Baraco?
Yes.
Vic?
Yes.
Baldwin?
Yes. The treasurer's report is the purple sheet. Questions?
Motion to approve the treasurer's report dated June 11th, 2018.
Support.
Anything else? Please.
McCafferty?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Baraco?
Yes.
Vic?
Yes.
Baldwin?
Yes. The bills and transfers. Discussion? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills and transfers for check dates May 1st through May 31st, 2018.
Support.
Anything else? Okay, public comments, please. Agenda items only. Please limit yourself to one.
I keep forward. In regards to the mill pond spraying, I urge the council to spray the pond this year. It's been several years since the pond was sprayed, and the weeds are really starting to take hold again. I've been here in the village of Goodrich for about 25 years. And when I first moved into the village, the weeds were very thick in the mill pond. I mean, it looked as though you could walk across the mill pond, they were so thick. The only open water in that mill pond was where the original stream was at, where there was water flow. Other than that, it was completely congested with weeds. So then the spraying program got started, and it took a few years to get those weeds under control. And finally, people were, able to canoe and kayak and fish the mill pond again, where before it wasn't really a very usable body of water. So spraying the pond does make a big difference. It's been a few years, and they are starting to take hold again. I think if you drive by Lake Ridge Road real slow, you can see where they're all at the surface, and they're starting to get really thick. So I would just ask you to support the mill pond spraying this year. In regards to the village administrator, I'm in support of retaining the current village administrator. I worked with Jackie over the years. I've been here, like I said, about 25 years, and I know Jackie has been in this position for at least that long, if not longer, and she's brought a lot of money into this community, a lot of grant money and so forth. I mean, if you look at any project that's been done within the village of Goodrich, Jackie had something to do with it. And so I would urge you to retain the current administrator.
I want to second, my name is Jim Moore. I live at 10206 Huron Street. I second what Keith says about Jackie, even though we don't want to see eye to eye on things. I'm here to speak about the new park. I purchased that property October 13th, 1987. At that time, I had parcel T1157. The house was on that. The prior owner bought T1158 from Consumer Power. That had my detached garage. My original property went from where my house is all the way around Ridge Road to where the golf course dumps water into the pond. I noticed somebody was dumping garbage and concrete on that corner lot, and I inquired as to who. I found out it was Harold Coffey. It seems our friends at Consumer sold the property twice. They sold it once to Kerry Leslie, the prior owner, and they sold it to Harold, but he never registered the deed or anything like that. It was only when he wanted to build that house on the corner. So I had to go to court with Harold, and he ended up with the Ridge Road. There was never any Consumer's lot in between our lots. So I'm just going to, if you have to go forward temporarily with your park, fine, do it. I want a fence on my side. I want stairs and railing because it's pretty steep there. I need you to put a garbage can in there, a porta-john, and what else? Maybe a no alcohol sign. Maybe a sign that says, closes at 10 o'clock or whatever. So is that going to be something we can do? But I am going to take some time off work to do some more research. I'm positive I've already bought that land. When Consumers tried to sell it to me, I told them, why am I buying land you already sold twice that I know of? So it is what it is.
We'll address it at the end of the meeting.
All right.
My name is Stanley LeBanc. I live on the corner of the house we're talking about, put there. I believe if you want to put a park there, and get his thing straightened out, they should have notified the people who's going to be affected by all these people coming in there to dump their boat off or look at that. That lot looks right into my backyard. I don't like that at all, so I would like a fence there too on my side, if that goes.
Privacy fence.
Can I have your first name? I'm sorry.
Stanley Lorraine.
Thank you.
I live on the corner lot, on 8117 Ridge Road.
Every time he puts a shovel in the ground, he finds some arrow broken down. It's very nice how he built that.
May you rest in
lot.
peace, though, Mr. Ward.
Yeah, I hope he does.
Please.
Diane Fredericks, 2476 Sheriff's Court. Moved in 2000, and since then, there's always been an adversarial type relationship between the administrator and the public. And I just want to remind you that as the council, you represent the citizens. And if 3 of you are getting constant complaints about her, there should be no question that her performance and her leaving should be taken seriously and something should be done to take care of that. Thank you.
My name is Sherry Moore. I live at 10206, as my husband, James Moore. We've been taking care of that property for 31 years. We maintain it, we mow it, we clean it. I have people driving on my lawn thinking that because you put that in the newspaper, that park, thanks. I have people driving on my lawn, sitting there, because you put that in the newspaper.
Please address the chair. Please address the chair.
Whoever put it in the newspaper, that was wrong of you to do so without contacting the owners on both sides of the property. So I also am in favor of Jackie Sage. She has been wonderful, and there should be no reason why she should be taken. She's gotten us grants. She does her job. She may not be as friendly as some people may not like the way she deals with things, but she does her job. Thank you.
I'd like to speak about Jackie Sitch also. And the hostile environment that the employees are working in currently, the stress that's involved, it's not a healthy thing. But as for Jackie, I'd like to talk about her leadership in this community. Our finances are sound. Our bookwork is always on time and proper. Jackie holds high ethical standards for this community. When you read in the paper about other communities with problems, that's them, it's not us. We don't have those problems and we should be proud of it. Under Jackie's leadership, she has led towards the walkability of our community, from the first bike path that went in to the extension bike path that goes along M15 to all the interconnecting sidewalks in between. She's led the walkability of our community. Under Jackie's leadership, we've had minimal employee turnover. We have satisfied employees, long-term employees that know our part, that know our community. Jackie is supporting and encouraging to volunteers that work and do projects in our community. I've experienced this for years working with Jackie. She's encouraging, she supports what we do in the community. She likes community involvement. Jackie is respected at the county level. Jackie's duties are very wide and varied. It's a complicated job. Jackie knows more about this community and history behind it than anyone else in this room. And probably there's few people in the village that know more than Jackie. She offers us consistency. The council comes and the council goes. Jackie's always here to be able to put things together to keep our community moving forward. I think it would be a mistake to think that we can easily replace Jackie. Bring someone in here to train her, someone's friend or family member or whoever. I think that's a mistake, and I think it's a mistake to think that we're going to find a perfect administrator. Jackie's not perfect. You're not perfect, and we won't find a perfect one to replace her. Thank you.
Richard Scaroli with Goodrich. If I could take the liberty of looking back as to trying to get an administrator at one of the councils that I happen to be on, and what we had to go through to do this legally and do it with, transparent, and how we went forward with it just in case we go down that line. We put a month notice in to get letters and applications. We had 14 applicants. The council reviewed them and vetted and reduced it to 6. The 6 were given opportunities to come in for an oral review, and it was an open meeting. And at that time, we had, as I recall, had one individual from Chamber of Commerce from another community, had a couple that were from other government agencies, activities around the area, and we had 2 from academic backgrounds, and Jackie. Those were the 6 that came in. They were all giving a series of questions, asking them about their managerial skills, asking them what kind of knowledge they had as it pertains to things like getting grants. We asked them about their associations with civic groups or government groups and how they interacted with them. Familiar with contacts in Lansing and Genesee. We also asked them how they felt about various aspects of the village. The council retired within a week. Everyone decided that the best fit was to rehire Jackie, and that's what the council did. That's 14 people, and that council did not see anyone better than what we had at that time. Jackie was no longer with it. She came back, and we hired her as a group. We also, which is important, we also sent letters out to every applicant explaining to them that we appreciate their participation, but they didn't qualify to our levels of what we were looking for. We had some come back and ask what was the shortcomings, and we responded to that. We came up with this process by talking to other communities and how they do it. Right now, Oxford is going through that particular scenario as if indeed that happens here. So I'm just saying that this is not basically an easy kind of process. It takes a lot of time, has to be transparent, cannot be any favoritism, nor can there be any type of being involved with the process. You have to be right on top of everything and follow all the rules of getting back with these people who did not make the cut and letting them know if they ask why. So I'm just saying it's not an easy type of process. It'll take time, it'll take effort, and it should not be done emotionally. It should be done strictly on the facts and the ability of these people that would want to come in and join the village.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Shirley Kaufman-Jones. I own parcels along M15 in the village. I have owned them since 1986. First of all, I want to thank the council for the mailing of the newsletter and the postcard. I thought that was very beneficial. I also brought the small version of the cemetery survey, so if there were any questions on where that parcel actually is and where the access is for that development. The Cemetery Association would appreciate up to 8 trash cans if they're available for donation to be used in the historical cemetery. And I am also here in support of the village and the work effort. My husband David, who could not be here tonight, and myself have always regarded Jackie and her skill set. She may not be Mother Teresa, and whenever you're in any position like that, you should always be understanding that there are going to be complaints. People are not going to always like when you tell them what the rule is. Jackie has been a champion of the businesses in the community. She's always been there to help them in light of the difficulty with the sign ordinances. Those are your sign ordinances as the council and the planning commission. The administration can only enforce those sign ordinances. The civic groups are also very grateful, and the community service groups are grateful for the participation of the village administrator and the village council. I find difficulty in all of the goings-on that take place sometimes in the village. And I'll tell you, in 1986, when we purchased our property, the first parcel, our attorney looked at us, looked at the property and said, what are you guys thinking about? So we had no real sewer system at the time. We didn't have the M15 improvements. And all of that has happened under Jackie's work here in the village. So I realize that people are always replaceable. Everybody in this room is replaceable. However, Jackie has done a lot for this village. She doesn't live in the village. I understand that. She lives in the township. But she's always had high regard for the community and the endeavors. I work shoulder to shoulder with her on the drugstore, the pharmacy. We worked on safe routes to school for the school system with the superintendent. Been very involved in the emergency response issue that we had with medical control and having ambulance service in the village. You can see where the ambulance is today. So I got to give it to Jackie. David and I have, we've had our differences on discussions over signs, when a drunk driver took down our sign, where setbacks are, when we were trying to redo a building and the contractor inadvertently just about demolished it completely. But you know what? We worked through that. We worked through that with the ZBA, the Planning Commission, site plan reviews, and all of that. The processes are in place and they work. Everyone may not always agree, and as council members, if you get 10 complaints, 30 complaints, you know what? It comes with the job. And you just do it. And people complain about lots of things. If people don't like it, they complain. So that's it. And again, I brought a snapshot version of the survey over by the cemetery. So and the Cemetery Association wants to be cautious that everybody understands where that property line really is, because when we get into this section of the cemetery, we're not always certain of all of the graves that are in there because of the records from the early 1800s. So, any council member wants to talk to me, I'm always available, just like anybody. I have an opinion, so thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sandy Kell. I live at 1142 Greenview Court. And as a retired administrator, I've been responsible for notes to meetings, and they were never my interpretation of what was said. They were to be actual meeting notes. So given the various issues such as this and conflicts in the village that I've watched and seen, I think we need a new face in the clerk's office of Goodrich, so I'm opposed to renewing the contract of Jackie Sich.
Excuse me, you don't have to give us your address. This is being live streamed, so please, you guys, your name is fine. Your name is fine, but please no address.
That's the rules.
That's why pizza delivery.
Yeah, well, then we can do that. Good evening, my name is Patrick Rouse. I am a resident of the village of Goodrich. My topic for this evening is the renewal of the clerk's contract. My involvement in the community has been primarily with the wonderful school board and the superintendent of the Goodrich school system. Because of a variety of reasons, I've had to turn my attention to the village oversight. I am here this evening because of what I have witnessed concerning the representation and the oversight of this amazing community. Although there are a number of concerns I have regarding the management of the fiduciary resources and the human resource strategy of the village that I can't really go into in this meeting, I do believe the first positive step would be to transition the current clerk out of the office and replace her. This is an amazing community, and there seems to be so many issues that continue to surround the clerk that I believe it would benefit the community to start anew. From there, we can begin the process to build the community, starting with cohesion, clear objectives, and employee expectations. I like hearing all the positive notes from the other village residents that we've heard this evening. It would be nice to tell the clerk, thank you for your positive efforts and complete her career here at Goodrich before this becomes any worse. Thank you.
Katie Heck. First off, I do want to just take a second to correct the misunderstanding about the park that's on Mill Pond that we're looking to do. I had gone looking because I had not heard it existed. And I was like, how is there a park here? And that was where I came upon the neighbors saying, this, I can't even believe they would call this one. I believe I am either the only one or one of the very few people that said no on that idea of a phase one to put a park on that land, because it's ridiculous. It's a completely absurd use of land. I even bent over backwards, begged and pleaded to try to buy that property that was on the peninsula, but nobody had the time to wait for government to be able to get grant money. But I'm telling you, I've worked my butt off to make a Mill Pond piece of property that we could use. And nobody else did. I even emailed the entire Parks and Rec committee, including our administrator. And nobody took any action. I'm the only person that did that. And I want you to be very clear on that. I also want to clear up a little bit of a story that was told. A little bit was left out, including the details of which message had left us prior. I'm speaking to you about the previous case. Left out the details about the dirty recalls that occurred at that time when the administrator was let go, how the hard drive went missing, and then when it did come back after a long weekend, it was conveniently erased and ended up in an investigation. You guys still don't know how dirty and dark that history is, but it's been here since some people were in the room. Not to mention, there was a severance package that was received at the time that was never paid back when he was rehired, which also went against the contract to rehire her. There's been multiple lawsuits that are still no accountability on regarding Open Meetings Act nonetheless, which some people have the audacity to come to other meetings accusing them of Open Meeting Act violation after racking up well over 10, I don't even know, 20,000. You tell me how much we have not accounted for and who are we holding responsible for that? What I can say is one person has remained here through everything. We've had a lot of councils, a lot of feuds in the neighborhood, a lot of bickering, miscommunication. Where does it all get distorted at? There's only one person in the center of it and has always been there. And if you don't change that, you're never going to get anywhere. It's not personal, it's business. This is about bringing the community back together, not about trying to rip it apart. And I also just want to advise you to be cautious when you are speaking on that topic of renewing a contract, that you recognize there is no termination. It is merely renew or do not renew. There's nobody being fired, there's nobody being, you need to be careful on how you speak on that, because when you come to labor laws, that matters a lot. So I want to caution you just on that fact alone, but I think it's a very important topic and I'm very grateful it's finally on the table. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Thank you, everyone. Unfinished business. First one is the police report.
This one, I'll take it the other before I completely forget this month.
Just put them in the report, not temporary.
How did we used to get them? They just send them over down to?
Used to be. And there was a discussion after the township meeting, and I know that a citizen, a resident, expanded on that. And within the next 2 weeks, things are supposed to change as far as the enforcement of our police and our reports.
They used to fax them once a month.
So-
Not always on time for the meetings, but we usually got them every month on the fax.
Usually George is pretty good about getting them to me if I haven't received them by a couple of days before the meeting, I'll send them a reminder. He's been pretty good about getting them.
Anything else? Any other discussion? We're good on it? The next one is the report, Mr. Lightfoot, the street administrator part. Don't have anything this one. And I'm still trying to get a cement man to look at our sidewalks. We'll see what happens there. Mrs. Sidge, 911,
Nothing,
water and waste.
nothing.
Park and Recs,
It was brought to my attention that there was a $5,000 grant that the community could get. It's a reimbursable grant where we would have to fund it up front and then be reimbursed, and it's for, it's called an Art in Place grant opportunity. I've been talking with Jessica Davis. She's the artist that helped us with our park sign. She's helping us with the path drawing that's gonna go from on top of the hill down the hill in the Commons Park. She's a local artist, a new artist, and this would be a great opportunity for her as an artist to get her name on something and recognition, and also help the community. The idea of the grant is to work with artists to create art that's anchored in place, use your imagination, talk to your favorite artist. And it goes on about how it's, I have a pretty picture too, if anyone wants to see it. Okay. Our Village Suggested Project is working with artist Jessica Davis, who is present here today, so if there's questions, I'm sure she would be willing to speak, who has experience with working with children. She works at one of the schools, and it would be an opportunity for kids and adults alike to participate in an outdoor art project throughout the community. A caveat to this grant is there also has to be a downtown tie-in to the park. And the idea is, like many other communities, would be to have large boulders placed throughout the community for, like, one in front of Reed Elementary, one in front of Oak Tree Elementary, maybe one in front of the middle school, for kids to, like they do at the high school, to paint these rocks, and it would be ever-changing. It would almost be like living art in an aspect. On the diagram, it would be in the Commons Park to use the existing shed and overhang and create an art center. There's the possibility that we may have a volunteer who is willing to donate a large metal table, and kids, community members would be able to paint that table with vibrant colors, and possibly having a slate drawing board up on the front of the shed, and also an area where it would be like a picture frame with a slatted area where kids who created art could drop it in there and have it displayed. It would be, the logistics of all of this is obviously in preliminaries, but we need an idea to go ahead and apply for this grant. The other thing that's super cool about this is that there would be an area for art supplies for kids to use. We would give out combinations to responsible parents, or however we're gonna work the logistics of locking these art supplies up, and the potential for, finish a bottle of paint, bring a bottle of paint, and have it keep, recycling itself. I mean, a small bottle of paint is 97 cents at any craft store. A large bottle of poster paint is under $5. But this would make the park someplace where families could go, they could create art, kids can be proud and display their art. It would bring color, it would bring more activity to the downtown area. It would tie in with our benches that are painted. We would have huge boulders that could be painted, and just more community involvement. And it's $5,000. There's a lot that you can do with $5,000 to instill art in the park. So Jessica, I don't know if there's anything further that you would like to add?
Yes, I do. Hello, my name is Jessica Davis. I am a teaching assistant here at Reed Elementary. I grew up here in Goodrich, so I keep this community very near and dear to my heart. What's not pictured in the rendering is also the possibility of having a trash can area there, which would allow children to clean up after themselves and take responsibility. At Reed Elementary, we have children that, we have so many toys and different things, but they will run right past that and go straight to the paper and the pencils and the markers. And I think that the children take a lot of pride in the artwork that they make, and I think they will also take a lot of pride in the art center. And we'll take any questions if you have concerns.
Well, the $5,000, so will you apply for it first, or we give you money first, is it guaranteed, or what's the?
You apply for the grant and present them your project.
Okay.
Yes.
Then it's either a yay or nay on whether or not you get the grant. If it's a yay, then we can go ahead and, try and get the volunteer or the donor to give us the table, buy some slate for, the chalkboard area, stock up on some art supplies for the kids, and buy some boulders to place throughout the community.
I like the idea, especially the picture of that. I do like the boulder idea, but I'm kind of nervous about it because I see what happens to Hamburg Road, the big wall. It's going to be profanity no matter what, wherever you are. But
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
That's my fear.
There was the boulder in front of the high school that after the girl had passed, that somebody had graffitied up that boulder. I believe it was the evening that was graffitied up. Another student went and corrected it. So there's not just because there's a place for somebody to paint something means it's going to be negative. There's we have a place up north, and they have, I don't know if anybody's been to Gaylord, but they've got these huge bears throughout the community. People started painting those. Royal Oak has all types of different graffiti type art all over the place. Lansing is having art, big art. Ann Arbor has a lot of big art and painting stuff. So this idea, I think, ties big city thinking into a small town environment. And why this means something to me is because art is the first thing that they pull out of schools when budgets are low. They take the music programs, they take the arts programs. It's usually the first ones that are cut. And these types of things allow kids to express themselves outside of math, English, science, and social studies. This is a way that, hey, look at this goofy smiley face I made. But I think Jessica came up with a phenomenal idea, and
again, I like it. I like that. It should be a game plan around the boulders, because when something does happen, who's going to clean it up? It's going to be someone DPW is going to have to clean up, because who's going to take the graffiti up every time? Let's say there's 5 boulders. I don't know. I'm not against it. I'm just saying we have to have a plan around. I don't want my children that's 4 or 5, 8 seeing something absurd on a boulder when they happen to be out playing. It's got to be taken care of right away. So we got to have a game plan around.
Right, and this again is just a preliminary idea to show the shed, and to come up with an idea of how that money would be spent.
I would like to address the concern about vandalism. I believe that the cabinet area that would be also put in the art center would also have cleaning supplies that could be used for the art center as well as for the boulders. With the particular art center, with materials that we'd be using for the bench itself should be made for easy cleanup and easily painted over. I do understand that vandalism has been an issue in the community before, but I also understand the local police has talked to the people responsible. So I mean, as a part of this community, if I were around, I know, because I take pride in this community, I would have no issue helping clean up. But I feel that the people who utilize that space, who want to keep it well, so I love it.
Call Jessica. Game plan done, so.
I agree with Mr. Bronco, though. I think that there has to be some kind of, some foresight. And he's definitely spot on right there. He's not saying no to it by any means, but we need to expand on it and have a plan.
Right, and again, this is just
Just
talk
yeah,
to apply to get the grant to be able to go ahead and do
So
something fun.
You look for a motion.
I'm looking for a motion.
We're at the park, or you want to put the shed?
We're not putting, the shed's already there.
The shed is already in
It's
place.
the shed it's
The back.
the shed that's in the commons part.
Ut-
This would be
utilizing
on
the space
the,
that's
this would
already-
be on the overhang side of the shed that faces the road.
I make a motion to approve the application of the grant for the park.
Support.
Anything else? Good? You're right.
McCafferty?
Yes.
Leddy?
Yes.
Bronco?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Baldwin?
Yes. Number 4 is code enforcement. If we're all done, thank you very much. All set?
Yeah, sorry.
I was asking what the timeline was.
I understand.
We have to have a grant, I believe, by the 15th,
Yep, the 15th.
and the village will be. Code enforcement, and I talked to Mr. McKinney today, and he is working on the 2 items that we have, home occupation, and, when Dave is able to travel a little bit, we need to have a meeting with Mr. McKinney and a law enforcement officer that is a code enforcement officer, and Dave, to make sure we have the right materials that we need. It's a ticket book or whatever to pursue.
Questions, council? Let's move on to number 5, the administrative.
And a couple brief things. We need to, as always, set a meeting at the end of the month for budget amendments. And we also, we're going to have our public hearing tonight for the solid waste, but you need to schedule that. My suggestion is Monday, the 25th of June. That's not available to everybody, then Wednesday, the 27th. But we need to get it scheduled for, so we can mail out the notices to everyone.
So 27th, and what was the other one?
The 25th, Monday the 25th. We don't have a planning commission, so that day is available.
The 25th is the only day I have available that week.
I'm good on the 25th.
Okay, and then we'll schedule.
Any particular time?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, 25th.
This is a first. We're all available on the same day. First go around.
6 o'clock. That's AM, right?
Yep, it's clean.
No, hush your face.
Shirley already mentioned the 8 trash cans, so I don't have to do that. We had a meeting, Nathan and I, with Wade Trim regarding the SAW grant. We're beginning work on that. Just for your information, we need to put the data back on as tablet because it requires a lot of different interaction between Ethan and the engineers. So unless somebody has a big problem with it, I'm going to put that back on. We found out today, one of the reasons why our computers have not been working is that we need a new fire network security firewall appliance. I just received this via email. It's $894 to upgrade our system. The system is quite old. And at this particular time, if we need to open something that comes in on an email, we can't. So it's inhibiting a lot of what all of us can do, and this was next time, and it's not ignoring in the least bit. So I'm looking for a motion to purchase this network security firewall appliance from IT Right in the amount of $894. And as I mentioned, I just received it. They've been working on this for the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Is there any annual renewals on that?
Yes,
Do you know how much those are?
on IT Right, or,
No,
sorry,
for-
backup people?
No, for the firewall. You're buying it off of IT Right, you're buying a program from IT Right. Is there renewal fees on that program, or is it just the renewal fees towards IT Right?
I don't know if that's a software or if that's a hardware. And if it's a hardware, it's just there should be a one-time fee. If it's software,
Well, it says Ethernet, power supply, desktop pack.
It does say appliance.
It's a-
I would
it's a-
imagine it's hardware.
And it's
And
separate to
there should be no maintenance fees or annual renewal fees, where there would be if it was software.
So my question is with that, normally on the hardware, when you're doing a one-time fee, you run into a year to 2 years where they become obsolete, and you gotta spend another $894 to get a new system put in. To where if you buy the actual software, it's a $25, $50, $80 annual fee per year, and you have to upgrade every single year. So the question to council is, do you wanna do a one-time fee for something to be obsolete? In all honesty, it's gonna be about a year to 2 years, or do you wanna look at something else?
Well, this one that we have has been probably 10 years since we started working with IT Right. It also has included in that number $130 Cisco SmartNet extended service. Exchange of physical service.
Which does what?
I'm sorry.
Which does what?
Warranty service, extended warranty.
Extended warranty.
Do we pay IT Right already to oversee all our programs and everything?
Well, we buy our programs from BSNA,
Okay.
and then IT Right is the backup. They back up the entire system, they do everything anything IT that needs to be done.
So, yeah, and that's my question. So what's this system that we purchased, this hardware system that we're gonna purchase, is IT Right going to support it, and do we have to pay the extra $195 for Cisco warranty, is what I'm asking?
It's $130, and yes, they're gonna pick it up. They're going to continue to service us like we service us now. They've been servicing the original one, but it's beyond service. It's out of service.
And that $133 or $130, that's built into the that's included in the $895 cost.
$894.
$894.
So I'm looking for a motion for that.
I'm not an IT security expert, so I don't know what that would cost. Honestly,
Or how long it
but I
would
can
last.
tell you one thing, I don't want my stuff being able to hack in the village and get my social security number, so I'm all about whatever it takes. to
Right, and if
secure it.
it's impacting their job where they can't open things.
I just don't know if that's a fair number. I could tell you if that's great, or that's bad, you know, I
Right,
don't know.
and-
So, I mean, if we want to put it on the table and see, I don't know, but, I mean, I'm okay with doing whatever, we gotta take it and secure it, so. I just wish I had that kind of
There
background.
are IT people there.
Me, I'm just, you know, putting the back of me on it, you know.
And this comes from IT, and IT will do had this for almost a decade.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
Especially in digital age, right? I mean, I'm okay with it.
I'm looking for a
Is
motion.
that a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve to secure the village by spending, what was it now?
$894.
$894 to protect Tim Baracos' stuff.
And others. Also
Oh, and others, and everyone else.
Looking for support.
Support.
Any other discussion? You ready?
McCafferty.
Yes.
Letty,
Yes.
Baraco,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Bolte.
Yes. Sidewalks,
Wait a minute,
oh, you got more?
Oh, you left C, there.
I just wanted to ask a question about our lawnmowers in the shop, or was in the shop, it's out now. If anybody had a discussion with the repair people on the lawnmower? Oh, it was in there. Give two no's. Well, the reason I ask is because we've had the lawnmower down there on numerous occasions for the same type of thing. And this time they decided that they were going to replace their filter and do the oil and do whatever for almost $100. And we did not order that, the DPW does that.
The DPW didn't authorize it?
No.
I said, okay.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that when I go after to not pay it, but it's legitimate not paying.
I'm surprised they did it without authorization.
Yes, we have the exact same bill, which is in the that's the same reason that it went into repair, and they did not do it. So, I mean, we've got to help with it.
So,
I guess, let me just for a second, I'm wondering if that had something to do with an oil sensor, and that's what they were concerned with and why they did it. I guess it would, you'd have to have more of an explanation for them, why they took it upon themselves to do it, because there could be a low oil sensor that
Doesn't
they were
say
questioning.
anything about that.
Doesn't say they're required to test it.
I guess I would ask them for an explanation, that's all.
They did the spark plugs, the fuel filter, the air filter, two different ones, an inner and outer, whatever, and oil filter. And it's not requested. Like I said, they're over $100.
so my question is, the motor fixed and they just did that on top of it?
Yeah, the total bill is $299.64. And this is $74.80 minus labor. I don't know what
Does it
the-
state on there what the issue was with the motor?
It says, keeps quitting when hot, which is exactly what it said another time.
I know that
They didn't do
there,
it.
Matt explained to me there's 3 modules on there, and I think that at this point they've replaced 2 of the 3. 1 definitely. I'm not so sure they didn't replace 2 of them, which is, it's an electronic part, and hit or miss. But, my only thing is I wondered if it was a sensor on there, for
They
the
should
low
have
oil.
passed though.
Yeah, I would think so. I think they'd have no right doing that without asking. I'd question, I'd want an explanation. Council agree?
Yeah,
Consensus?
Agree.
Okay.
That's. For administrative.
So now I can move on?
No, wait, I'm sorry. One more
Well, I
thing.
can't.
I'm sorry. Shirley asked for 8 trash cans. Currently, we still own those. We have to give a motion to donate those to the thing.
Did you just make it?
Yes.
Support. Yeah, yes.
Is there any other discussion on that?
Those are 8 original trash cans.
Village used.
Used, okay,
And the
used.
green one.
And we're donating to the Senator Association. It's like, all right, I got it.
When you're at?
Okay. McCafferty.
Yes.
Blake.
Yes.
Baraco.
Yes.
Dick.
Yes.
Bolte.
Yes. We're all set with that. Now we can move forward. Number 6 would be the sidewalk. And like I say, I have tried to get a couple of cement guys to come out, and it's pretty tough.
I do have a guy though. Do you want any more quotes?
I would just like a quote. Whether or not, I would just like to know what a contractor would cost, then I would go back to the DPW and have them give me somewhat of an idea what it would cost for those guys, how many hours, and then we kind of look at it. If they can squeeze it in, maybe it'd be a good thing.
You're talking about areas where it's sidewalks heaving.
I believe that Ethan told me there were 6 places that he was concerned about.
So, I mean, we have Birmingham's, I mean, is it not Birmingham Steel, but these guys are Morris International, which are the coal patch, if they just send them work too, they wouldn't give you a vote. Okay, I mean, they're here already.
I'm not sure.
Okay. I know they do signs.
Anything else on sidewalks? Number 7 is the administrator's contract.
So, at our last meeting, I should say, the one that we had all that discussion over, we had talks of not renewing Jackie Sidgwick's contract and to go in a new management direction. So we did ask for that to be put on today's agenda. So that residents understand what we're referring to. I'm not going to read this whole contract, but under what the administrative contract states, under number 10, the term, this agreement shall remain in full force and effect for a period of 1 year from and after the date of execution hereof. This agreement will be renewed automatically from year to year thereafter, unless either party requests in writing that it be renegotiated or that it not be renewed. Such request to be effectual must be received by the non-requesting party at least 3 months prior to the date of the automatic renewal. And go to the beginning, on October 10th, 2011, was when this was signed in.
Contract was signed 11/2.
I'm sorry.
The contract was signed on 11/2.
Right, you are, I'm sorry, you are correct. But on 10/11, let me get this again. Sorry, I have a cold. Now, October 10th, 2011 was when this says Village Office Administrative Village Goodrich on October 10th, 2011. That's when they had selected Jackie to serve in the office of the village. So that was the date that we were referring to. If we did not renew, that was when they would be off payroll. That was the discussion at the last meeting. I don't know if you want any other discussion on that. Any explanations or anything like that?
Council, you know? Yeah, well, say what you have to say.
So at this time, that I move the motion that we do not renew our administrator's current contract.
Support. Any other comments? Because I have just one quick thing, and that's keep in mind that this is going to cost us dearly to do this. I'm not saying that, you know, well, so you can do what you wish, but with that said, you're going to seat a new council this fall, and you're also going to have a new administrator. And I wonder if that is really in the best interest of the village.
Yes.
You know, maybe waiting until after the council is seated to go forward with this. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Anyone else?
Well, without going into a whole lot of details of why, I don't know if this was the appropriate place for that. There is language that is stated in here that she would have to train the replacement. I know there's some debate on what the intent of that language means. So again, I don't think we're going to be leaving, if this were to go through, there's another time to ride. As ex-councilman Richard Schmorey stated, that it would be appropriate in a very early fashion to get the applications out in the paper so we can see who we can get in before that next council does turn over. Again, there is classes that are available for any new clerks that take office in any municipalities. They are a 3-year class. They go there for about a week. Sometime in the beginning of the year. They take that for 3 years, if you will. That's to get an actual certification for clerks. So anyway, I don't believe we'd be doing a disservice going in this direction. Again, I've expressed concerns that there's always been difficulties and problems. The council changes, as has been stated by members that are present here, but the issues never go away. So we're kind of to our last resort.
And I disagree with Mr. Ball, unless you want to get specific in regards to what it would cost the village more money to do this.
it goes forward, you know.
What bill are you referring to?
Severance pay.
Well,
And I have to be careful right now, because I have talked to 2 labor attorneys, John, and he told me to try to keep this as.
Well, I just say, if you don't have actual cost, I would not state that it's gonna cost us anything, because we have no idea what's gonna cost.
And you can also look at it the other way, to where, you know, the cost is for the fact of not having, you know, having a new council and a new administrator could be costly because of the disarray. Put it that way.
We'll be fine.
So,
And again, I'm not, I have no intentions of reading this whole contract, but a lot of it is up for interpretation on what means what when it comes to those issues. I too have talked to some labor attorneys. And again, there is 2 separate articles that discuss termination and non-renewal in the sense of what's going to potentially take place in severance packages. So again, I think you went the right direction, Mark, by contacting labor attorneys, just to get a heads up of what we may or may not be in for. So again, it's never easy making these decisions, but you know, sometimes that's what we're elected to do, and we'll have to move forward. This decision was made once already. Contract was signed that we'll never seek employment here along with severance pay, and if it does, severance pay would get paid back. It didn't. So here we are.
once again, I'm going to go by the advice that I received from attorneys and say, you know, to try to handle this, you know, with as few words as possible.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, and I'm not saying that is a reason for the not renewal. I'm just giving a discussion of history that's taken place.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But,
Well, again, that is it. That would be the president's call to end the discussion on the motion that is happening, and if that's the direction that we want to go. But again, another example.
Once again, let's be careful. So, if there's no more discussion,
I would like to say something. Some of us, it's pretty clear to read. It's not a light decision. I'm sure nobody's taken this decision lightly, no matter what their feelings are. And with the vote, how our vote goes, I'm sure everybody has put a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of effort, a lot of thought, probably many sleepless nights, considering the termination of the contract. Basically, by the termination of the contract, we're ending somebody's employment with the village, and it's not something to be taken lightly.
anybody else? If not, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote.
McCafferty,
No.
Light,
Yes.
Baraco,
Yes.
Fick,
Yes.
Baldwin.
No. Okay. With that said, once again, Mr. McKinney's letter, you should have received that last week, if you pass these on. The contract that Mr. Mike was just reading, the bottom line is either one of them would like to handle the case. The one in Farmington Hills, because of the location, is really not very convenient for us. The one in Graham Lake is a lot closer, a lot easier. Either one of them I feel pretty comfortable with. As far as the money, it's about $225 to $250 an hour, somewhere between 4 and 6 hours. And they will guide us through. They will also, he said he would help us with a new contract. And I'm not going to go too far into the contract that we have, but he and I did discuss it at some lengths. Some things that should be changed for the next one. And he would be willing to do all that, once again, 4 to 6 hours, $250 an hour. We'll come to the meetings too if we want.
You know,
Pardon?
Either one of them will come to meetings?
Either one of them will come to the meetings, just the one is in Farmington Hills, the other one is in Grand Blanc. It would be just north of McAllen Road on Saginaw. And his name is Kendall Williams, and that would be my first choice.
Have you spoken with them, Mark?
Yes. Been in their office, talked to them. And like I say, just the advantage is Mr. Williams is close.
For the Farmington Hills attorney, does their time start the minute they get in the car and head out?
I'm sure it would.
It will.
He's gonna charge you for the travel time, but you have to understand that, you know, if I or someone has to go down there, it's a long way to go, you know, it goes on and on and on. Once again, Mr. Gilner, they spoke very highly of both of them.
Are you looking for a motion to go ahead with one of these?
Yes.
Okay. I make a motion to approve to go ahead and hire Kendall B. Williams out of Grand Blanc.
Support.
Anything else from council?
McCafferty?
Yeah.
Light?
Yes.
Baraco?
Yes.
Vic?
Yes.
Baldwin?
Yes. On the back, his card is on the back if anybody's interested. Yes. Additional members.
And then questions on that, Mark, if I may, are you going to be contacting him on the language for the letter of the non-renewal, or is he going to attend the meeting and advise us on how to proceed?
He said he'd walk us through the entire process, all of the above.
I think we would be wise to have our hands held and walk.
Absolutely. And both of them stressed that. Nothing else? Number 9 is the lawnmower.
You have 2 bids in your packet. Again, we're bringing it back to you because the lawnmower that we did is not dependable. There's downtime, there's specific equipment that have to be used to go pick it up, and we can try to fix it here before it goes in. The recommendation from the DPW is John Deere for the 54-inch, 90, 30, 48, 86. If you have an interest.
So that's down from the original proposal, I think it was, what was it, Mark, something that came in close around 15?
Road as a skag.
I think last year when that proposal came in, Mark? Yeah.
But I think it wasn't SCAG, and
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it was up there, and that was why we were gonna go through the notion of looking for contractors possibly to come in and cut to see if we get a cheaper rate. So that being said, without discussing a potential bid that we may have observed that was withdrawal, I would think at this time it may be inappropriate to possibly replace the mower for long-term cost. If you understand what I'm saying.
I guess at this point, you know, Atherton Road has the 2 SCAGs. And I think the lower one is the one that we had the price before, and I think it was closer to, you know, $11,000 or $12,000.
Yeah, it was more than what we're included here. And do we know what the value of our old one would be, so we can have the option of selling to recoup the money?
I kind of looked on it a little bit, and, you know, kind of vague, because, you know, I would guess somewhere between 12 and you might get as high as 16.
Neither company will take it in a trade.
Do you know how much the trade value would be?
12 and 14.
Well, they're
Will
gonna,
not take it in.
But they weren't interested in trade.
But they will not take it.
They will not.
Will not, okay.
so I say online, put it out front, and we've done very well doing that in the past with machinery. But if we could get, you know, let's just say 12 out of it, that kind of helps beat up the price a little bit. The question now is which one do you want to go with?
What year is ours right now, currently?
95.
Oh, five?
Yeah, that's about it.
That's where mine's at, right? Got people all around. And what is our current deck length on ours? Our deck?
I thought it was 54, wasn't it? I'm not positive. But I did talk to Matthew as far as the 61, and he's going, you know, there are areas that they do get into, they get a little tight. And he goes, you know, the 52, 54, either one of those, they'd be fine.
Well, I will a recommendation from Matt that we go with the 52.
Now the question is, which brand?
The John Deere is
54.
Yep, it's 51, John Deere.
So we're kind of eliminating that. I'd say
Not to mention the Skag, that 23 horsepower one is a 52, and full suspension, and it's 8329. It's the cheapest one.
Do we have any room in this current budget to purchase that, or do we have to hold off until next year's budget in for that budget?
There's money in there.
I think you already got it.
58,000 that we've had come in. The training has not been distributed anywhere, so it can go under shop equipment. There's mine.
I'm gonna default to you, is that a good unit?
I really don't know. I know Skag, everybody likes them.
Right.
I mean, I heard the name.
You know, it's a good brand, and it's less than the John Deere, so.
Maybe we get 18, we get 1,200 for our old ones, so about, yes,
That's a $7 grand, you know.
I support that.
That's a motion?
I make a motion to purchase the Skag Cheetah, 23 horsepower, with a 52-inch cut full suspension motor for $8,320, and a motion for selling the other one.
Yes.
Make a motion to sell
Wait,
the.
we gotta do one at a time, so I'll support that first one. Sorry,
Make it happen.
I understand.
Can we add that?
I don't know why you couldn't add it.
Yes. With conjunction of selling the
In
old,
conjunction with the sale of.
old mower at the front of,
And we can't buy it until it's sold.
right. Or, oh, you want to do that one?
No.
No, yeah,
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, come, still need to go, yeah. Too bad it wasn't
Well, in
continued
conjunction with the,
transaction.
The sale.
I would make
Sale
that.
of the,
yeah, I'm trying to think of it after, you know, you're selling it, after, I didn't know when you're,
After purchase of the.
after purchase.
After purchase.
I knew there was a word.
We want to read this one back too, because there's some holes in this motion.
No, okay, so motion to purchase, in conjunction with the after, in conjunction, okay. Motion to purchase the Skag thingy,
Mower.
Cheetah.
yeah, I got it down here. Okay, and then that last bit, redo that for me.
The
With-
price?
No, you're purchasing the one and we're reselling, and we're
Can I make this one?
reselling the other.
Motion to sell old mower after purchasing Skag Cheetah.
We'll do
There
it
you
then.
go.
There you go. That's what I was trying to say.
Support.
Okay, we got a motion and support.
Smarter than a fifth grader.
No, I lose it all the time. Let's get the geniuses.
McCafferty,
Simple, yes.
Light,
yes.
Bronco,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes. Number 10, our unfinished business is the Mill Pond spraying.
I have received emails and phone calls and visits from 4 people indicating that they would like to see the mill pond sprayed this year. The amount to spray the mill pond is $3,975 for one application.
How much is the second?
I didn't figure we were going there, so I didn't get that. It was like 37, something like that.
If needed.
But you can't get that price unless you're too cheap.
Council,
So if I may, As I sat here over the last 3 years, going on my fourth, I have stated many times that I don't think that this council or the general public should be paying for the mill pond spraying. There is no boat access to allow residents on that pond. There was talks that the part that's gonna be going over to your side is gonna be made for boat access. I have challenged that and asked how that's even possible with the ramp that has went down, with the hill that's going down, how it even be safely done. Since then, it has been told that that's not going to happen, that it's just going to be a little picnic area, so to speak. So, again, that being said, without any residents, taxpayer residents, other than the individuals on the mill pond, not having access to be able to use those functions of fishing, canoeing, kayaking, everything that all the residents are doing, it shouldn't be a burden just on all taxpayers. It is a beautiful pond, especially in the fall when the sun's out and the leaves are changing. It's beautiful scenery. You see some of the pictures a lot of individuals take out there. So that being said, I think there should be a cost sharing done on the mill pond to where the village, if you will, pays a portion of it, and then the rest gets assessed to the mill pond residents. So since there's not really a true beneficial, we'll do a share expense.
I do agree that we should pay for some of it, for sure, because it is a village pond, but I would like to see public access at some point, even if it's for ice skating this in the winter, but, yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, to say that people can't fish at it is, I mean, people can fish the pond, I've seen it.
They access it up at the store.
Yeah, there's people who fish there.
And that technically is trespassing, that's gas station
Is that legal?
property.
Yeah, no, it's not legal.
Not on the road where the.
Yeah, Mr.
where the
Vick, you are
dam
right,
is.
there is no actual legal access.
There is no access, but however, that's not the fault of the residents, it's a village-owned pond. The village owns that pond. And the other village property that the village owns, we maintain. You know, we just gave $10,000, budgeted $10,000 for the ladies' library to fix the foundation, because it's a historical building. That pond has historical value to it. Talked to some people in the community who would like to see it sprayed, not only people who live on the pond, people who fish there. I also have a concern about weeds in the pond for the fire department that sucks water out of the pond. There's a lot of weeds. Is that going to cause an issue for the fire department to get water and be able to respond to fire calls in a timely manner? Those are my concerns.
They don't spray my end at the south, so.
You know, we're not saying not to spray, we're just asking for a caution.
Well, and that's something that could be done, but it's not something you do just with a resolution. It would take a little time to go through this process, which will not help us out as far as the problem that we have right now. Not that it shouldn't be looked at, but right now we have an issue with the weeds that's only going to get worse. Cafferty, the fire department is one. The next thing is if you get an abundance of those weeds, they're going to roll over and go up on the shore. There's going to be an odor in the air. And the next thing is that the operation of the gates on the dam is something we should be concerned with. Those are the three things. Now, if you want to go through and do a special assessment to those riparians, that would be the council's prerogative. But that process is going to take a while. You're probably going to be at the end of the summer before you ever resolve that.
What's our cost for that again?
$4,000. But that, you know, once again, that isn't something you couldn't put on an agenda in the coming months and initiate the process of looking into it.
So you're suggesting pay the first application up front and then readdress it at other meetings?
You're going to have to get on the agenda, go forward, it's going to take some time to do that.
I think we should do it for sure, then look at it after next year.
But if you're going to do it, it's something that, you know, we should do before
Oh, yeah.
council's over, you know, you should initiate that right away, 'cause it's gonna take a while.
So do you want to, so are you looking for a motion to spray the mill pond with a cost of $3,975 and then to have it put on the agenda for further looking?
Yeah.
You got that, Pat? Kind of just talked that one through.
That one's better than the last one.
Spray, Mill Pond, one spring,
In conjunction.
2018, and revisit a future meeting.
July meeting.
Oh, all right. Revisit that. July meeting. Leave it at that? Okay.
Any other discussion? We're good on it?
I'm sorry.
You got the motion, you got support, you got it all done when you're ready.
McCafferty? Yes. Knight?
Yes.
Baraco?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Baldwin?
Yes. We have some resolutions to do now. And the first one is Resolution 2018-06. That is the extension of local taxes. And I guess we could get right into the, therefore be resolved that the Village of Goodrich does hereby determine that the village summer operational tax shall be returned to the Genesee County Treasurer on the same date that the county taxes are returned delinquent for collection on March 1, 2019. Any questions on it?
You need me to explain what it is?
I'm asking if they need that.
Please do. Please do.
What this is doing is allowing us at the local level to collect the taxes until March 1st, which means that the penalties and interest go to us instead of Genesee County.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
It means that we can collect on the local level until March 1st the penalties and the interest on people that pay their taxes late. Instead of Genesee County receiving that,
They come to us.
yeah, the money comes to us.
Any other questions on it, council? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to pass resolution number 2018-06 as stated.
Support.
And just to follow the question real quick, please. Is that to streamline getting the delinquent funds, if you will? Instead of going through the county, it comes directly to us?
Well, we don't collect them until March 1st on the county, it's all that money.
Right.
So we get that money because we collect it as they come in and pay. And then what goes down to the county, we end up getting in June, end of June. End of June, which
That's what I
this
thought,
year
it's
we're
to
going to
streamline
have.
to get it to us faster, instead of going through the county first and coming back.
Right. Well, if it goes to the county first, we don't get it back.
Go south, yeah.
I'm good, I'm having two things with the sewer. I'm good.
You're good with that one?
Yes.
All right, now we have the next one. Is Resolution 20. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Somebody,
McCafferty?
Yes.
I'll stop asking questions.
Light?
stop it.
Excuse me, yes.
Baraco? Dick?
Yes.
Baldwin?
Yes. All right, now if we can. Resolution 2018-07 delinquent sewer charges.
Can you explain that one?
This is what we've been talking about for the last couple of months. This is to be able to put that roughly 130 people that have not paid their sewers on the tax roll.
Not in the newspaper, like we talked about? I make a motion to support resolution 2018-7, delinquent sewer charges.
Support.
Any other discussion?
We don't we currently do this already, this is just a continuation. This process already takes place, we're just saying we're doing it again.
Maureen has these first three resolutions every year, and then we get.
Yes. They were looking familiar, that's why I'm
Do
asking.
it. Yeah.
Every
Ready?
Please.
McCafferty? Yeah. Knight?
Yes.
Baraco?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Baldwin?
Yes.
The next one is the same process. When we have to go out and cut the weeds, we charge the people whatever somebody charges us plus an administrative fee, and it goes on the tax bill.
Motion to approve resolution 2018-8, delinquent weed charges.
Support.
Anything else? Please.
McCafferty?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Baraco?
Yes.
Dick? Baldwin?
Yes. Number 4, resolution 2018-09. This is the 2018-2019 millage rate.
This is just a resolution to state that taxes are not going up. It's still 5.3251, which it's been since 2005.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2018-09, the general operating millage rate of 5.3251.
Support.
Anything else?
McCafferty?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Baraco?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Baldwin?
We have resolution 2018-10, 2018-2019, the fiscal year budget.
This simply states that the general fund budget for this year is $689,475.
And does that number also reflect the 2% cost of living rate?
Yes. Yeah, that's the budget that we looked at last time. It had everything.
And the new mower.
Pardon me?
And the new mower.
What is, no, that's on this budget.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2018-10, the 2018-19 fiscal year budget.
Support.
Anything else?
McCafferty?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Baraco?
Yes.
Dick?
No.
Baldwin?
Yes.
The next resolution is per charter, the administrative officer's compensation. That would be myself, Ethan, and Noreen. And those numbers are calculated in the budget that you reviewed last time.
And that resolution is still redundant from the last one, but it's just reflecting the 2% wage increase, correct?
This is
Yes,
the
it is
2%.
a 2%.
This is the 2%.
Same thing. Yeah.
Anything else? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
Motion to accept resolution 2018-11, administrative officer's compensation is read.
Support.
Anything else?
McCafferty?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes.
Baraco?
Yes.
Dick?
No.
Baldwin?
Yes. Public comment, if anyone wishes. Mike, is yours?
Which ordinance is?
To clarify the issue on the police reports, the township is the contract holder with the sheriff's department. And during my 8 years in office, I sent the reports from the township to the village. The contract has no obligation for the sheriff's department to send that police report to the village. So that was something that was provided from the office of the supervisor. I also wanted to talk about the June 20th chamber meeting for the discussion of the polls on M15. So I know there was some interest by council members to attend that chamber meeting. It is on our agenda.
June 20th, you said?
June 20th at 6 p.m. in the conference room at Liberty Way. I would also ask that any sewer fee increases that come from the county, consideration be taken, that those are passed on to the users of the sewer system. It only makes sense, because if you don't, you're gonna really have a deficit in your sewer fund. And then there was just some mention, and I have not seen that contract, but it talked about the current administration training the new person. And I look at that in a different light. It's, if one of you gentlemen were in the process of getting a divorce, would you expect your ex-wife to train your new wife on how to use the appliances in your house?
What not to do though.
Just think about that. And again, we're looking forward to the prospect of installing poles along the M15 corridor that would support a banner that would, we'd be able to display the different community service, the functions and things that were going on. And again, this is something that has been, we've worked with the village several times on trying to obtain that, but we believe in tenacity, so we'll just keep moving forward on it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jenny McKenzie.
Jim Green from.
Think of the city?
What's that? Yeah, we're gonna do
You don't want
that.
either one of us to say.
Yeah.
We checked Good Times in Goodrich, and Jim has some things that he would like to discuss, re signage and that kind of stuff.
As far as the banner across the road, we're fully behind that. You look at the look and feel of Grand Blanc and the events that go across is super important. The festival's coming up. We come to you every year. We appreciate your support in the past. You've been a really good partner. We look forward. We gave close to $12,000 back to the community last year. We're proud of that. I know some other groups are coming in. They're doing a great job. And we're looking forward to partner with the village and those groups. The festival, we've got some safety issues last year. We need some more barrels for the roads, to keep cars out. We did have a couple cars come down M15 and just disregard right through the car show. So we need, yeah, it was very dangerous. Person got dragged by the car.
Maybe some seaward, like the horses would be better.
Whatever it takes to make public safety, we're for. We could use a few more garbage cans. Mark's been a great champion of this, and the Porta Johns, of course. I want to, but Shannon, you made a point about the art in the park in a big town feel. I've been coming to this council for the last 4 years asking for pole banners. You've got 102 naked poles through this community. You go to Otisville, Brandon, Holland, they promote. And that goes back to the signage. We haven't been able to put signs with Cranberries or John's, their names on it. We need to really look at that. If we're gonna be a proactive community, how do we promote business and how do we bring people here? And that's what we're failing to do. That's free advertising. Welcome to Goodrich. Good Times in Goodrich, we've offered, we would pay for the first 10 if the village would match. We came, we said $450 last February. Everyone says it's a great idea. We have not implemented that. So how do we move forward? Those are naked. When in football, we put 45 banners up. That's the only time. The football team took the initiative to do that. We need to do something like that. I mean, you drive to Otisville, for God's sake, and they've got banners. We want to be a big-time field, but we're acting like a small-town community when we can't even do that. Happy holidays, something. So we're willing to put the investment in the village. We're asking for the village to put the investment with us and be a good partner. So lastly, the sign, I'm requesting to work with the village to have a sign amendment. With the new groups coming in, we want to be helpful to them. For us, for the festival, we have to put the signs up a week before the festival with limited amount of people and have them down the day after. That's a tremendous undertaking when you're putting on a whole festival. They have to run around and take 100 signs down. So we're asking to amend section 36-823, which is an exempt sign. So we're not asking to put more signs up, we're just asking for the leniency to have them up a little longer period. So I think that would benefit the different groups here. So there are signs, we have many signs that are taken and thrown away because we can't get them down in time. And after you run a festival, basically, putting that kind of time in, it's hard to get out and get those signs down the next day. So maybe some cooperation, we can do that.
Are you saying time before longer and time after longer?
A little bit, something blended, nothing that's intrusive. I don't think we've been abusive in the past, but we're just looking some relief. And I think it would benefit all the groups, and that's what we're looking for.
You know, a couple of days after the festival would be great. It's pointless leaving them there for a week, because that's just redundant. But if we could have until like Monday or Tuesday, that'd be great. And at least an extra week on the forward side would be good too. It gives us a week to get them out. We do try to be very cognizant of where we put them. We don't, you know, we don't stick them places that they are, you know, inappropriate or anything like that. But, you know, we'd also like to, we'd be very lucky with sponsorship with some of the local businesses. We'd like to be able to put maybe a sign in their yard saying something like, you know, sort of proud supporter of, you know, Goodrich festivals or something like that. Just to give them some ownership in, you know, their community involvement as well. So, you know, that's kind of what we're looking for. And also to you know, sort of putting banners across roads and all that kind of stuff. We've earmarked some money for a long time to be able to do that. But it hasn't been possible, so that's something else we'd like to partner. We're not asking the council to pay for it, but we'd like to partner with other groups to fund something like that can be used by, you know, whomever that can, you know, put a banner across the road. So, you know, we come to you as a partnership, not as a, you know, give us kind of thing. So if that's at all something we could look at, that would be terrific.
How do we move forward with the banners, the pole banners? But we probably addressed this last February, and everyone said it's a great idea. And Shannon, I recall you saying $45. That's cheap, right? That for the banner. Remember?
Right.
Yeah. So I mean.
Right. I mean, it's from past meetings and discussion. Am I speaking out of turn?
Ask him, can we respond?
No,
Right.
that's good,
Okay.
You get
and-
special treatment. I love her accent.
Just sit down.
Just sit down and let her talk.
Whatever you want.
Give me a beer.
Okay, yeah.
But other conversations and other meetings have always been that there's restrictions to the poles being put up. There's restrictions to, you know, right of way. There's restrictions to this, restrictions to that. I like driving through Grand Blanc and seeing the huge metal. They just had their, I think it was, we went to the fair on Friday, whatever, Family Fest or whatever the Grand Blanc thing is called. They had their banner going across the Go Wildcats sign. I had, because we don't live in Grand Blanc, I shop there occasionally. I would have had no idea had I not seen the banner. I would love to see a banner coming into Goodrich. I would love to see the poles painted with something cool. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day, as a matter of fact.
Well, the challenge we have with the poles is, and I don't know.
Right, they're owned by.
We don't own those.
Right. We would have to get permission. But I love the idea. I love the idea of bringing vibrant colors, driving under the viaduct in Grand Blanc with all the paintings and stuff is great. I would, as a council person, I would be in support of a partnership between, you know, multiple groups and even the village to support a banner thing. I don't think that it's bringing people to the community. It's helping our restaurants. It's helping our businesses. It's helping our overall appeal to others that we're not this catty little town. We can actually have a good time and come and enjoy that.
We can do banners for the businesses. I'm sure they would pay for their banners if you come down M15.
Yeah, if it was businesses, I mean, the schools could promote football games and you know, prom and, you know, other events. The gear group that Mr. Baracco is a part of and a couple other members in the audience are a part of they would truly benefit from that.
Well, I'm talking just to start, we go generic banners. I mean, welcome to Goodrich.
Right.
I mean, just
here,
established and, you know.
The misconnection, I think, and this gentleman backs up before, the schools and the village need to be one, right? I go to Lapeer, there's Lapeer lighting everywhere, downtown, everything. So same with Grand Blanc. That's the partner, we need the schools partnership, we need the village partnership, we need the local organizations to help out. And I agree that when you come in, it should be, we are the Martians, right? And that's us, that's what the village is, so.
And you and I have had this conversation, we're not just the good times of Goodrich, we're Goodrich Festival. We want to promote events that help the community, and that's important. So I guess what I'm asking is, we need to start the ball rolling on the banners first. We talked about it, I'd like you to put a motion in that we support the banners. You do 10 and we do 10.
And just to be clear, these are the poll.
It's not an agenda item, we.
Yeah, no.
Can
But
we discuss it?
these are the poll banners, not the across the road banner.
Right,
As an
and I would like it
initial.
just to be, you know, Martians, you know,
Yeah.
the generic ones when it's off season, I don't know, you know, so.
Mark, if I may.
Sure.
At the May 21st meeting, we had already had this discussion, or a side note to update, because I think you had addressed Jackie on this.
I
concern.
haven't talked to you personally about.
No, you and I.
I talked,
So
about.
so what I'm saying is that got put on the agenda. And we already had discussions regarding allow the festival, special event signs and or banners to be placed. The sign ordinance does not address this, suggestions to request samples from our planner, possible temporary permits. So my question is, did this ever go to the planner? I also have notes in regarding to this should go to the planning commissions at the next opportunity, which would have been this month, then possibly a special council meeting, so we could try to streamline it for your suggestion that you were asking. So we've already had talks on this. Again, my question is, what happened to that direction? There was already, this was already in motion to take place. And I apologize, we should not have to have this conversation again.
The request
We've
goes
already-
to the planner, and he's obtaining the samples that we requested. I don't believe there was anything that said we're gonna have a planning commission this month.
But this was supposed to go, because it was discussed, that this had to go to the planning commission, because we had in-depth conversation along with the gear signs, graduation
Yeah,
opens,
garage sales.
graduations, weddings, garage sales, the good times and
Let's see if we can't do this on our
We had
25th,
this
6 a.m.
conversation written
meeting.
down.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, like, if we're gonna do this, let's get this done, so we can utilize summertime to get these things done.
Yeah, let's see if we can do that with the planning
We'll
commi,
start sooner than you know.
moving forward with it on 25th. Let's make sure it's on the agenda and go forward.
So if you need us to do something for that meeting, get Brett, Jackie to reach out to us or something like that.
Yeah, just give us the money yet.
Okay.
Plan on the 25th at 6 o'clock, you know, have somebody come here.
I'm sorry, well,
Try to plan on being in here on the 25th at 6 o'clock, and we'll try to have everything in line and ready to go.
Once again, we thank you for your time, we appreciate your cooperation. Look forward to working with you again this year.
Now, my question is, isn't the 25th normally when the planning meeting is?
They're not meeting this time,
But that was the discussion, that it had to go to planning first and then
You
council.
don't have the
first.
samples.
I was gonna say, you have nothing back from anything, do you? I mean,
Planning commission.
Because I believe Shirley went in great detail on, we couldn't do, she gave us some very good verbiage in that meeting on what we can and cannot do by making temporary motions on the signage and that stuff, and then it had to go through planning. And Shirley Jones back there gave us the direction on how this process actually had to take place.
Right, we opted, I think we opted out of a moratorium because that would shut everything down.
Right.
So there's a planning commission meeting on the same day we're gonna have a meeting,
they're done.
there's not.
so there's not gonna be a meeting. So now we're back to square one and solve.
What's the earliest the planning commission meets, and maybe we can be after? Is that possible?
July, what?
Just put the banners and
What time do they normally start?
That's what I'm asking. What time do they normally start the planning commission? Do they-
Well, can't they just call a special meeting a week prior to ours, or even the day, same day as ours, at 5 o'clock?
You don't have anything from the planner.
That's the
At
problem.
this particular point in time,
just put them up.
it fit what we were asking them for. I will contact them tomorrow.
Can I ask a question? What's the difference between like, the Christmas decorations that get hung on the poles and a banner that gets hung on the poles. Is that banners have words on them and then they become
No,
signs?
you can order banners.
I think
So,
we're getting into different issues, so.
Yeah.
We're asking for the ugly yellow
right,
signs.
right. Right, no, and I'm just, if y'all go ahead with banners and work something out, then we can put them on poles.
Well, the problem is that signs can't go on road right away. That doesn't make any difference. Whether we change the ordinance or whether we don't change the ordinance, especially on M15. Road right away is for the DPW to work on. Asking somebody if you could put the sign in their
Right.
yard, you know, you can do that. Which has always been the case. What we were trying to talk about is the special events signs, what we might be able to do with those. We've already talked about banners, that people can put banners up advertising cranberries, but at that point it had to be in front of cranberries.
Gotcha.
Not up and down in 15.
But if we put generic, welcome to Goodrich signs or something
Well,
like
that's
that.
fine, that's what the banner poles are out there for.
Okay, and does that include if we put Good Times in Goodrich signs up? Because there is no, we have no place of
It's
business.
a community event. I don't vote.
No, I know, that was,
I would, yeah, I
I
would
just
say,
want to be clear, that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
they would just have to come to us and say, hey, we want to put them up from this time frame on poles, right? And then we'd be good. You vote. See something?
On poles
We
and
didn't-
yards, I mean,
No,
I
I'm
don't.
not talking about the yard, let's talk about the poles. Just the
banners
poles.
and signs.
With the
Okay,
football
I'm
one,
getting
we just
confused
put them up.
because
Yeah.
before we weren't.
Why can't they do the same thing, they can do the same thing that football team did.
One at a time, multiple conversations, one at a time. Let's get back to the banners, the definition of the banners,
Just the poles.
Poles.
I say we, just like they did for the football team, we can, as a council, make a decision and say, great, you have this time frame to put your banners up for Good Times in Goodrich, or whatever the event might be, and we approve it, and they put them up, and they have to take them down, so we don't know what that time frame is, but I know we talk about penalties, they're not down within 7 days.
Well, the banners on the poles are different than what's written in them.
Right, but I'm saying, just like the football team, we give them permission to go ahead and do that, with the stipulation, they must be down 10 days after, or 2 days after the event, or whatever, so. Bring it up on the next discussion of the vote, I'm just saying, it's, might get something. Just get something out of it.
All right, well, I mean, does that suffice what you guys are asking? I mean, you want to put the stuff up on the poles?
They're two separate issues.
Two
What-
separate
what-
issues,
right.
but we'll go with the polls for the minute.
The polls are great, but it's the look and feel for the community.
Yeah.
The festival's different. We're looking for relief to put them up a
Right,
little
yes.
earlier and to leave them a little later.
For the little yellow signs.
Right, that's what I'm saying, the poles
And
aren't,
then-
the poles aren't the issue.
Oh,
No, well, yeah,
Oh.
and then at some point, to form some sort of a committee to get the banner across the road, not today though.
We can on M15.
You cannot include, you can, but it's costly. So anyway, so that's our thing, so banner poles, we'll order some, we'll look for some discussion, read the little
Yep.
things, and
Next
then
meeting.
we'll.
And Rossi settled it all.
There you go, man.
That's what
Down
you
under.
had, that's what you had
now
me
we'll throw
for.
boomerangs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle Smith, I'm the spokesperson for gear, and we're asking to use the Arch Commons Park on September 15th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. for Bounce in the Park. We're requesting electricity in the pavilion to be turned on for the event.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe we can put that on the agenda for the 25th also.
Well, I didn't hear what she said.
They're requesting to use the park, the 25th of September.
15th.
of September from 10 till 2.
10 to 3.
3 p.m.
10 to 3.
And with electricity.
pick the date.
You just, the way you get the park is you call in and request it. But I can put the request in for you. To Noreen, and provided it's not used on that day. What day is that?
Saturday.
Saturday. There weren't that many on there, so you're probably free.
Richard Cerulli, very quickly.
Just to correct the record, personal knowledge regarding subject that was brought up about the hard drive for the server. I was on the council at that time, so I do have firsthand knowledge. Jackie was never accused of having possession of that. There was another individual that had taken possession of that for 48 hours before it was turned over to the authorities, and it was proven, nothing was ever proven that anything was wrong or done illegally. So rumors don't match up against facts. She never had possession of that server. Secondly, when you address it again about spraying the pond, people on the south end do not get sprayed because the water's so shallow. If everyone has to participate in paying it, special assessments or whatever, you're gonna have some issues about the people that are paying without getting the services. Okay? So when you look at it again, you want to make some adjustments on how you're going to go ahead and mail out the cost of doing this to the public. Please take that into consideration. And lastly, I would ask that when you make decisions on having these interviews and whatever, that you do it transparently, you do it with no favoritism, and there's no nepotism involved in it, because that's not the way to have an orderly kind of transition.
Anyone else? Anyone? Council? Any comments from council? If not, I have just one thing, and that is Mr. Moore, at your earliest convenience, I would like to sit down and talk with you about that property, and maybe we can share some information. And
That's fine, that's fine.
Whatever's good for you.
Not this week.
I tell you what, you can either call up to the office, or you have my number, you call me.
There's something you guys can put, whoever put that newspaper, and let them know for now.
We had somebody show up, what did he tell you, a
He
blank
said,
off?
he told me to go.
In our yard,
myself.
he says,
And he
this
said-
is the villages. Okay?
And then, yeah, he had some words to say to me. And he
And
said,
his
you can do
dog
whatever
left
you
the
want.
president.
You know,
His dog left the
we
president.
can't resolve that.
Oh, I
Call the police.
Who wrote the newspaper?
Jim, if you would, please,
Yeah.
you call me or here, and we get together and share information, okay?
Yeah, I'll get over
That's
this.
if I can do it well. That's a starting point, all right? Okay. Nothing else, council? I'm looking for a motion.